morning. Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. Here we go. Yeah, diddy die, diddy die, die, die. 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 Die, 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 die. Die, 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 die. One more time. Yeah, diddy die, diddy die, die, die. 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 Oh, nice.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome. I'm Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined this morning by Leslie Zucker and our wonderful team behind the scenes. That includes Dave and others who are doing typing and things behind the scenes. For those of us here, we just remind everybody to make sure that our phones are off.
Phones are on, off.
On, I'm sorry.
No, I love that.
They're
exactly.
on. That the phones are off and not on. Thank you.
Language is weird.
We continue together on page 186. We're calling the numbers on the square brackets on your Siddur. And we offer thanks to you, God, for restoring our souls to this beautiful, albeit a little warm morning here in Kansas City. Looks like it's already 88 degrees. So,
wow.
But it's nice and cool in here.
It is.
So you're
It's
welcome
lovely.
to come join us and share Shabbat with us.
מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, בחמלה, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך. מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, בחמלה, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך.
join together on page 195 at the top of the page. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wonders maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch ata Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. Continue together on page 196 at the top of the page.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi, teorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi. Elohai neshama shenatata bi teorahi.
Page 198, we offer blessings for our daily miracles. We alternate, and we invite you to try singing each one of the blessings with one breath.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lesech v'bina lehavchin ben yom uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivri.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokaretz al hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gavel.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish harumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layahev koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavir sheina meinai utnuma me'afapai.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'vurah.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifarah.
Amen.
Page 212, we join in the opening verses of Pezukei de Zimra, songs of praise.
Baruch she'amar v'haya haolam baruch hu.
Baruch Oseh Bereshit, Baruch Omer ve'oseh.
Baruch gozer u'makayem. Baruch merachem al haaretz.
Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav.
Baruch ha'ilan v'kayam lanetzach.
Baruch poder u'matzil. Baruch shemo. Page 218, words from Psalm 150. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, bekodesho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, birki ahuzo. Hallelujah, bikuta. Hallelujah, kerokulo. Shema, te hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 b'teka shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, b'nevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, b'tofu machor. Hallelujah, b'minim v'yugah.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Metzil tzelei teruah. Kol neshama
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Kol neshama
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
We turn to page 226. So we begin different part of the service that will include the recitation of the Shema and the Amidah. And I invite you to stand up if you're able and join us for Baruch Hu.
Lai, 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 lai.
Yai, lai, lai, lai.
Lai, 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 lai.
Yai, lai, 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 lai.
Lai, 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 lai.
Yai, lai, 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 yai, lai, 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 lai.
Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu.
Et Adonai.
Et Adonai.
Hamevorach.
Hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai.
Baruch Adonai.
Hamevorach.
Hamevorach.
Leolam.
Leolam. Continue together on page 228, joining the English in the middle of the page. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light of darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. And mercy, you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness, your daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai. In wisdom you formed them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands and for the lights you created. May they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praise are you, Adonai, creator of heavenly lights. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot. 232.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בעם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Amen. We join together on page 239 in the middle of the page. The eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else. May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat the swords into plowshares and their spears into hurling hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn anymore. You shall not hate your brother and sister in your heart. The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God. We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessings. Page 240. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדב הקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, שירה חדשה, שיבחו גאולים. לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדב הקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדך חינומך, יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. אדוני שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech
Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בגבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
Page 248. The middle of the page would join in the English. Let us sanctify your name on earth, as it is sanctified in the heavens above, as it is written by your prophet, Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzvaot. God's presence fills the whole earth. Source of our strength, sovereign one, how majestic is your presence in all the earth. Blessed is the presence of God shining forth from where God dwells. God alone is our God and our Creator, our ruler and our helper. And in mercy, God is revealed in the sight of all the living. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai shall reign forever, your God, O Zion, from generation to generation. Hallelujah.
לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. שכחך אלוהינו, ופינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. כי אל מלך גדול, כי אל מלך גדול, וקדוש אתה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל
continue our Amidah silently through page 260. When you conclude, you may return to your seats.
Sim shalom tova uvracha, chin v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chin v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha. Barchinu yotzenu, yotzenu, barchinu yotzenu, yotzenu, kulanu ke'echad, ke'echad, be'or panecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chin v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha. Sim shalom tova uvracha, chin v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, amecha.
Service continues, page 367, with the service for the reading of the Torah. If you're able, please stand and join us.
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam omer. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam omer. Al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al
I should bring a level here to see if it's tilted one way or the other. Thank you, David. So here we are. It is the first Shabbat that we read from the last book in the Torah. That means that High Holy is right around the corner, and everything is going to be a little more hectic here at Beth Torah, in every synagogue, by the way. This is the Shabbat when we begin reading the book of Deuteronomy. In Hebrew, it's called Dvarim, which literally means words or speeches. And it's not, of course, in English by its sort of a Greek origin word that means second law. And the book, it's not a second law, and we'll talk more in just a minute about it, but it is sort of recounting of the narrative of the Torah, not all of it, but mostly from kind of the chapter 12 in the book of Exodus until the end of the book of Numbers. And I believe last week when we spoke about the Torah portions, I mentioned that that was the end really of the story in terms of the narrative in the Torah. Not a lot happens in the book of Deuteronomy. It just takes a long time to get through it. But it's not a lot of actions or activities. It's a recounting of everything. This particular Torah portion, the first one, it's also known as Dvarim. And just a little piece of trivia or Jewish knowledge, however you want to take it, is that the first Torah portion of every book is named after the book. So the first book in Hebrew is called Bereshit, and the first Torah portion is called Bereshit. So the first Torah portion of the book of Dvarim, it's called Dvarim, which is rather confusing, but that's how it is. So the events in Dvarim, now the Torah portion, take place in the plains of Moab, in the lower Jordan Valley, at the moment when Israel is poised to enter the land of Canaan. The parasha contains the beginning of Moses' first farewell address, and as I said, it takes him a whole book to say goodbye, and it recounts the scouts' debacle, if you remember the story of the scouts, and also the encounters with foreign nations. The Torah Women's Commentary has this kind of summary of what goes on at the very beginning. This one is written by Elsie Stern. She teaches Moses' speech is not a neutral rehearsal of Israel's history. Rather, it underscores and supports central theological and ideological arguments found throughout Deuteronomy. Lest you think that this is just another recounting, it is not. And there are several reasons why. But the first reason actually appears in this week's Torah portion in Parashat Dvarim. And this is how Moses starts his speech, which will be basically applicable to all the next 4 or 5 speeches that he gives. And it reads in Hebrew, Ho'il Moshe be'er et haTorah hazot le'emor, which normally is translated as Moses undertook to expound this teaching. And if you were listening to the Hebrew, you heard the word et haTorah hazot, meaning this Torah. And there are commentaries galore as to what Moses meant by the words, this Torah, right? Because we are in the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy. This is not the Torah, right? Because this has the book of Deuteronomy. So Moses must have been talking about something before that point. And of course, the question is, how far back does he go? we know he does not go back to the story. He doesn't go like, in the beginning, God, he doesn't tell you the whole story. Again, he just goes back actually only in the first speech. Before in the next successive speeches, he goes further back. But in this particular speech, he only goes back to Mount Sinai, which, by the way, just to make things a little more complicated, it's called in the book of Deuteronomy, anybody? Horeb. So I don't know what happened to Mount Sinai, but apparently Moses forgot about the name and calls it Horeb. And I'm being facetious 100%. It's confusing. If you're actually paying attention and you read the beginning of the book of Dvarim, of Numbers, you find that the things you thought you knew are not quite the way you thought you read them in the book of Exodus and Numbers. But this is really an odd and amazing little window into what's going on, because, again, it says, Be'er et Torah. And the word be'er could mean to expound, to interpret, to clarify. Any of those words in English are problematic, right? Because why is Moses explaining the Torah now? I mean, these people were there. What is there to explain? Isn't this supposed to be the word of God? Why do we need Moses to expound upon it? Isn't the Torah not completed as it is? The great Renaissance commentator Don Itzhak Abravanel plainly wonders out loud, is the Torah a divine teaching? It's pretty amazing, right? That little word, be'er, to explain, expound, created so much uproar among the commentators. Now, the most common explanation, if you want to know, found in our traditional texts in the Midrash and in the Talmud, is that Moses interpreted the Torah in many languages. Clever, right? So that future generations of Jews and in many lands that they will live, they could understand. I said it's clever because when they say that Moses be'er et haTorah hazot, interpreted, they mean translated. In other words, he didn't change anything that came before him. He just put it in another language. Now, I know that means, it really means that it's more accessible to a lot of people. But at the same time, our traditional commentators, as well as we, know very well that every translation is indeed an interpretation. Just one way to get away from actually facing the problem that is in front of you. For that, we thank the medieval commentator Nachmanides, who lived in Spain. He plainly teaches, saying that he undertook to do so, to do the expounding, means that he had not been commanded to do so by God. It was his own idea. So this is Nachmanides. The Hebrew verb literally means that he wanted to do so. So Moses said, I need to do this. Did God tell you? No. Where do you get this from? I'm my own man, and I am telling you this is what I'm going to do. Which, of course, it is kind of out of character for Moses, right? Because Moses in the Torah is usually called Eved Adonai, the servant of God. He does everything God tells him to do, except for the last book of the Torah. The last book of the Torah, it's all Moses. Now, we do call the Chumash, the 5 books, we call them in Hebrew sometimes the 5 books of Moses. It should really be the 4 books plus the book of Moses, because Deuteronomy is all Moses. There's something else going on here. I'm just going to tell you, I don't want to dwell on it, but what really happens is that modern biblical scholars have suggested and proved to a certain extent that the book of Deuteronomy was composed a few centuries after the other 4 books. And so, indeed, this is an interpretation of the previous books. And the verse in question is a proof text that the teachings were coming from Moses himself. In other words, anybody who said, "Oh, I found," and this happened during the kingdom of Josiah in Israel in the 8th century, somebody did say, "We were cleaning up the back of the temple. This is in the Hebrew Bible, and we found a lost book by Moses." Exactly. I was like, "Oh, really? Show it to me." "Oh, here. These are the words, and it's a book of Deuteronomy." So something happened. There's speculations of what happened, but those who put it together felt that they had to at least acknowledge that this is not exactly something given to God by Moses, but it's really Moses' own creation. It was lost for 500 years, apparently, and there we found it. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm just saying this is why this verse is so essential. And you just read it like if you don't know all this, you just don't pay attention. You just keep reading, and it's like, all right, wait a minute. They're trying to tell us something. Now, I do believe, though, that whether the book of Deuteronomy was written later on and how much later or not, I think the point is well taken. Again, in the Women's Torah commentary, they teach the following, quote, "The word translates as undertook, expresses a decision connected with a new initiative or a bold action. The implication is that Moses initiates what becomes a long Jewish tradition, the constant reinterpretation of the text. In an ironic and Jewish way, the Torah has already begun to be interpreted within the text itself," end quote. So you see, the Torah, this is how I read it at least, is itself a pluralistic approach to religion and to the world. Indeed, even before they knew that such a word as pluralistic existed. Even the idea of Moses producing translations of the Torah early on speaks about pluralism and really inclusivity. For me, it shows that from the very beginning, our tradition made an effort to be inclusive, both of the people at that particular time, those who were listening to Moses, and Moses says, "Let me make it more inclusive, let me explain this to you," and also across the generations. Because the story of the translations, or that's a midrash, is really about making sure that across the generations, the Torah will be understood. Moses himself produced 70 languages, translations in 70 languages. And as such, it's an effort, and I'm sorry, what I mean is that, and such an effort is for us a call and perhaps a challenge to come together and contribute one more chain in this expression of a pluralistic and inclusive community, which started in the Torah with Moses himself. Now, the rest of the Torah portion is extremely dry because it's a lot of lists about all the people that they. The next week's Torah portion, we have a double bar mitzvah next week, contains the Shema and the Ten Commandments and all that. It really gets much better. But in this point, it's kind of the setup as we move forward into what comes next. So for those of us who are following here in the sanctuary, you can find a reading on page 1312 in the Chumash. We are reading from the book of Deuteronomy, beginning in chapter 1, verse 3. Those of you at home, you can find the link in the comments to our Sepharia link where you find the whole reading. And for all of us, the blessing is on page 368. Let me go back there. And please join me in the blessings before the reading of the Torah, page 368. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, venatan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. ויהי ב40 שנה ב12 חודש באחד לחודש דיבר משה אל בני ישראל ככל אשר ציווה אדוני אותו עליהם אחרי הכותו את סיחון מלך האמורי ואת אשר יושב בחשבון ואת אוג מלך הבשן אשר יושב באשתרתות באדרעי בעבר הירדן בארץ מואב. הואיל משה באר את התורה הזאת לאמור אדוני אלוהינו דיבר אלינו בחורב לאמור רב לכם שבט בהר הזה פנו ושאו לכם ביבוא הר האמורי ואל כל שכניו בערבה והר ובשפלה ובנגב ובחורב ובחוף הים ארץ הכנעני והלבנון עד הנהר הגדול נהר פרת. ראה נתתי לפניכם את הארץ בוהו ורשו את הארץ אשר נשבע אדוני לאבותיכם לאברהם ליצחק וליעקב לתת להם ולזרעם אחריהם. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. I'm sorry, I'm doing, You see, just to show you, we have our bar mitzvah here that I can get confused sometimes. So if it happens during the day, it's okay. We'll get through it. I can't remember. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chaye olam nata betochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah. Thank you. As we gather on this Shabbat together, we offer a prayer for those in need of healing. For those of you watching us online, you are on Facebook. You can actually type names on the comments. For us here in person, we ask you to offer names out loud if you have any. Thank you. Thank you. As we think of those in need of healing, on page 371, we join our voices together in the Mi Sheberach.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
As we think of those in need of healing, we add a special prayer for those dealing with addiction and mental health struggles. May the one who blessed our ancestors bring blessings of strength, compassion, and healing to those of us who struggle with the oppression of addiction, emotional distress, and mental suffering. Surround them, God, with loving kindness, with grace, companionship, and peace.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
The service for the reading of the Torah concludes on page 374 with Etz Chaim. If you're able, please stand and join us.
Etz Chaimi, lama chazikima, ketomeha, beusha,
We remain standing on page 86. We continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
As we continue with our prayers of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 598. As a congregation, we have heard of the passing of Jack Shames, father of Cindy Shames, and we are observing the Shloshim period for Al Grossman, friend of Edna Riley. And on this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzites of members of our congregation: Michael Aronson, Sylvia Becker, Theodore Bloom, Donald E. Boyer, P.D. Brown, Joni Geifman, Seymour Kaplan, George King, Fanny Lampert, Gertrude Levy, George Allen Mason, Thomas Graham Patterson, Sam Sandberg, Jerome F. Spiegel, Barbara Levin Thompson, Dixon Timmerman, Irvin E. Wade, Sarah Subatsky, Craig Zucker. If you're joining us online and I remember a loved one, we invite you to type their names. And if here you're observing Shloshim or Yortzai for someone. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba be'alema divra chirute ve'yamlich malchute bechayechon uvyomechon uvechayei dechol beit Israel ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yeheh shmei rabba mevarach li'alam u'lalemei alemaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha borichu Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da amiram belema v'imru amen. Yehe shelama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom b'mromav, u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Ose shalom bimromav. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
It's time for some announcements. I'd like to invite Aviva Simons, Director of Member Engagement for our congregation.
This is Aviva's song. The announcements are coming, they won't take too long. If you want to do some Jewish, she won't steer you wrong. This is Aviva's song.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much to Rabbi Katapan and Leslie Zucker for leading the service, and also Dave for being here every single week and enabling us to be live everywhere, every single week. Thank you. All right, so a few quick announcements. We will be back in the sanctuary next Friday, August 12th. I messed up the date last night, but August 12th, for our Erev Shabbat service on Friday, when we'll welcome our two newest team members. So we have Jess, who is our new Director of Operations, and Alex, who is our new administrative assistant. So it will be a great evening, a lot of fun, and after the service, we'll have an oneg with Jess and Alex's favorite desserts. So make sure to join us. And just two quick events to mention. First, we have the Kansas Supreme Court Justices Forum coming up 1 week from tomorrow. So that will be here in the sanctuary. We're very honored that one of our own Beth Torah members, Kansas Supreme Court Justice Melissa Standridge, will be one of the justices who we're meeting with, along with the Chief Justice herself. So it will be a wonderful afternoon here in person and also online. And the other event is Poolside Havdalah. So on Saturday, August 20th at the J, a few people here today have already registered. So thank you. We're looking for registrations for both events just to get a feel for who's coming. And I think that's it for now. There are a lot of High Holy Day opportunities in the works, so check the e-news for that. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Aviva. We do have a short kiddush in Amotzi in the Ulam. You can join us there, be great. And before that, we invite you to stand and turn to page 626 as we sing Enkeloenu.
Enkeloenu,
Enkadonenu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu,
Enkeloenu,
Enkadonenu, Enkel Malkeinu, Enkel Moshienu.
Eloheinu, Enka Adonenu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshiachenu, Enke Eloheinu, Enka Adonenu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshiachenu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshiachenu. Enke Eloheinu, Enka Adonenu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshiachenu, Enke Eloheinu, Enka Adonenu, Enke Malkeinu, Enke Moshiachenu.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Take care of each other out there.